Hi folks, John Mark here with Catalyst Connect. Pleasure to have everyone on today's webinar. Today's webinar is going to be a slightly different format than a traditional webinar. I had the opportunity to sync up with a few partners at the end of last year to really discuss how technology has shaped clients' businesses through the pandemic and the importance of having remote coordination and communication with clients through a client portal. So I would like to actually begin today's webinar by playing that recorded session with a few of our panelists to really discuss their use of a client portal and the importance of this remote communication. And then we'll segue into some sneak peeks on some updates to the client portal getting released here in the next couple of weeks and go into answering questions. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our panel discussion.
Hi folks, John Mark here with Catalyst Connect. It's a pleasure to have with me here today Brett Martin from Zenatta. We have Vinu Rajendran from Nimbis Designs, and we have Vanessa West from Shape Your Biz. Today we are having a panel discussion on the impact of technology on business today, coordination with clients, how COVID is shaping the way that we interact with customers, and how best to get to leverage technology in today's new world to help increase efficiencies, coordination with clients, and really just create a more cohesive and engaging way to interact with our customers. So I would like to open up today's discussion with just a broad overview of how you guys have seen COVID impact your clients' businesses this year, how technology has come into play with these big changes that we have going on this year, and some of the major trends that you're seeing, or acceleration in trends, I should say, throughout this year. So let me just open that up, and feel free to jump in if you have any thoughts on the matter and how this year has shaped up for you and your clients.
Yeah, I think I'll start here. It's been interesting from a client perspective. Back at the beginning of the year, there was a whole series of clients that had come in, signed contracts, went into development, and we saw probably about 20 to 30% of those just have to slam the brakes on it and put it on hold. And if you think about it, when we look at this year, with everything kind of coming to a screeching halt, say March 15th, it's really been kind of interesting as we've progressed throughout the year, because since we basically are in the business of helping people organize their business and make it more efficient, we are getting we're only being contacted by and engaging with people that have made that decision to kind of move ahead and go in that direction. I do think that there's, well, we know, just looking at economically, there's just a huge group of people that have just been crushed by this, and they don't have the wherewithal to actually make the modifications to their business, or it doesn't really fit with what we're doing. But, I think for the most part, it's been interesting. There are a lot of companies, I think, because of PPP and because of the EIDL loans, and because maybe slowdown, just took this as an opportunity to say, hey, let's really get our act together when it comes to a sales and marketing perspective, from a product delivery perspective, and to spend some time doing that. So I think it's been interesting that we personally have not been that affected. I don't know, Vinu, how's it been going for you?
Yeah, thankfully, we have not been really affected very much, and it's really been explosive in the growth. I definitely agree with everything that you said here, Brett. And with most of our clients, I've only had a couple clients that have been like, hey, we got to stop, right? Really what we've seen a lot of is a reprioritization of different projects, some like highlighting of gross inefficiencies, really like the true operational needs of organizations, right? So in some cases, we have an increase in sales and marketing, where people are trying to get out more product and really either trying to take advantage of the current situation, or really trying to stay afloat, right? And pushing what they can through sales and marketing. But I've seen a massive uptick in really operational management and using tools like Zoho, and really in the CRM, where you have a traditionally sales and marketing tool that's being used for operational management and then integrated through the rest of the Zoho suite. It really has, I think, driven an increase in other integrated Zoho applications, seeing things more like Desk, seeing a lot more bookings and appointment management as people are doing more virtual work. And having now these disparate Zoho apps, it starts highlighting a lot of interesting gaps that Zoho has outside of just like the CRM core, you know?
Absolutely. Vanessa, I'm curious to see how things have gone in your world, and then I'll add my 2 cents on what we've seen on the Catalyst side.
I've experienced about the same of what Venu mentioned. It's most of my clients, I have two specific types, ones that are all online and ones that are all offline. So the ones that are all online, they're all good because it doesn't really affect us that much. It's offline clients, you know, where they have to go and actually physically do something at someone's location. What I've noticed is that right now they're taking the time that they should have probably did when they started their business to rethink their processes. What tools can we use? How can we make our business better? So when COVID's, you know, done, if that ever happens, we are set and we can almost hit the reset button and be more organized going forward. So I'm doing a lot more of the, you know, CRM, you know, blueprints and Desk and, you know, things like that. And then there's a few instances where they're trying to go virtual, like the meetings. Instead of doing house calls, they're going to do virtual, you know, consultations as much as possible. So, you know, using things like Zoho Bookings or another tool that might not, you know, be Zoho related, but integrates within the Zoho tools. It's just been very, you know, none of them have told me, you know, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. It's, I have the time, I don't necessarily have the money, but right now, if I've got to spend money, it makes the most sense to spend it here, get me in a good place so that in the future, if this ever happens again, they're already prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I can echo a lot of these sentiments. You know, this year started off with a strong year. I think we've all seen a pretty strong trend towards organizations implementing more technology to become more efficient and automated. I think that the pandemic has really just accelerated that trend, in my opinion. We've seen a lot of folks, as we've heard here from the other panelists, that their businesses have actually taken off during COVID. You know, we have a lot of industries that have benefited from this, and those companies that have been positioned well to service clients remotely have swept up market share from those that were left unprepared. So we've actually seen a number of clients have record-setting years and really just taking off because of their market positioning, the ability to adopt technology, respond to this challenge, move to a remote-based workforce efficiently because they were organized. And you know, we saw both sides of the coin. On the other hand, there were clients that came to us in a bit of a panic because they didn't have the tools in place to coordinate remotely, and it was a bit of a scramble for a couple months just to implement systems, get users trained amid a lot of market uncertainty and of course a lot of stress in organizations. So I think that there's been impetus on both sides to one, be prepared to scale quickly if there's market opportunity to grow, be well organized to take advantage of these opportunities ahead of us. And then on the flip side, you know, having the technology in place to also scale down and have documented systems in place. We've also had some very difficult situations with clients having to unfortunately lay off key personnel and not having you know, appropriate company policies and procedures documented, and you're losing a lot of that tribal knowledge. And then on top of that, you end up losing key customer relationships. And this is, I think, another interesting trend that we're seeing, is that the way that companies need to interact with customers is changing. You know, we know we may no longer have that outside sales rep that has that handshake, you know, relationship with a client. It's going to be more of this virtual relationship and being able to build rapport with clients and, you know, actually have good notes, because who knows these days, you know, we're going to be a little bit more transient. We may have multiple people at a company touching base with a customer virtually. And I think that it really highlights the need to have a good CRM, take good notes, being able to build and maintain a reputation with a client virtually, which is challenging for the best of us. I mean, we've been virtual for some time, at least in certain capacities, doing a lot of video conferencing, but it's a different skill set being able to sit in front of a camera, 8 hours a day and being able to connect with folks. So from our standpoint, I know that's been a learning curve for me, realizing that, today an HD camera is akin to buying a new pair of shoes, being able to have good lighting in your office is like a new jacket. I mean, we're seeing just different ways that we have to actually connect with and build rapport with customers. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that and how you've seen your own interaction with clients change over the last few months.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really interesting from what you said was how the expectation of a customer, like when you're interacting with them, right? When you have that sales rep that's in person, right? It's like I have this relationship with that person. There's no expectation that the next person that I talk to will know the same things, know about my business, know about how our systems and operations work, right? But when we have these more virtual relationships, I think it's not even an expectation, it's almost assumed that when you're working with another person, another service rep, I can call into a customer support line and they know all of my ticket history. They know everything, every communication that I've had, my past experience, even though it clearly is not the same person. I feel like I'm interacting with the company overall, right? As a consumer myself, I feel that way, right? Even knowing what that takes on the operational end, right? So on the back end, being able to manage things like communications and just being able to transfer knowledge from one rep to another, or not even go between reps, be able to just open a page and quickly catch up on those, right? Is really critical at this time. And I think it's the small and medium-sized businesses that are most readily positioned. That's where like Zoho's niche really is, that are most able to take advantage of the technologies because they don't have systems in place already, right? Versus in COVID, when we're having existing companies and now their procedures and processes, as much as they brute forced it, they are not able to use those, right? Versus generating something new or engaging these new technologies that are taking that you can invest time and money in these areas, but you're not able to change processes as easily, right?
I think one of the things that's really been interesting about this is that, as Zoho consultants, we're always doing business consulting, right? We're always talking about the best practices for all of the different applications. And really, it's around all the business processes and how you get from point A to point B. But our businesses, interestingly enough, have always been virtual for the most part, right? I mean, my 9 employees are scattered across the US all over the place, and we've always been virtual. And I think of the, hundreds of clients, I think face to face 6 that we've seen over the, because they just happen to be local and had requests. And you used to get that request like, oh, you're in the same area. Would you come see us? You don't get that anymore. But we've done a lot of consulting like, well, what's the best way to set this up now that we've got everybody working from home? And it kind of is interesting, I think, because we are all used to this, right? This has been the way we've worked. This entire period of time has been remotely. It's just very weird to have that face-to-face customer interaction. It's all been Zoom meetings. So I think it was really interesting to be able to help clients work through this overall process, how to structure things, and to that end, Zoho really stepped up. I mean, wow, what they did with Click is crazy. They've just been pouring just a ton to beef that up for remote communications. And so there's some interesting aspects to it there. So, but definitely changed, John Mark.
Yeah, I think that you touched on something quite interesting there that I can certainly see on our side as well, is that we too have very few clients that we meet with in person, but we all enjoy traveling and meeting with clients on site. And funnily enough, in the last few months, I've actually had clients prefer to go to Zoom versus an in-person meeting. And previously, it was always the opposite. I was the one pushing for a Zoom call versus an in-person. And I think that that is now changing the way that we have to respond to how clients want to interact with us. And taking away that local element introduces a lot of opportunity, but a lot of challenge for companies. You know, when I brought up the shift in being positioned to take advantage of market opportunity, here we are with customers that are no longer prioritizing locality when they're considering their vendors. And we need to be very vigilant and cognizant of that fact, and be able to now position ourselves to perhaps look into other markets and states or even countries to do business, because we're finding that customers are far more willing to work with organizations that aren't in their neighborhood, because there's no longer going to be that face-to-face interaction. So
you can really push people to a Zoom meeting if you just cough a lot and sweat. I find that it kind of pushes them in that direction.
Picking up on some good tricks here. So, so you know, one of the questions I would pose is, what should companies really be doing then to stay ahead of the curve, and how do we position ourselves to better coordinate with customers, acknowledging the fact that a lot of this communication is now going to be remote? I feel like we've gone through this shift in the last decade with social media, and organizations now needing to get open up additional communication channels. You know, 10, 15 years ago, it was all phone and email. Then we had to introduce text messaging, social media channels. And now with far more remote-based coordination and the need to do document transfers, ticketing, paying invoices, I think that we're really in the age of needing to have far more robust communication platforms to coordinate with those clients. And it isn't just verbal, it's video, it's written, it's documentation and content, and accounting systems. And we need a good consolidated place to organize and coordinate with these clients to bring that level of comfort, organization, and familiarity with those customers, so that we can effectively handle business in a remote-based world. And that's a big trend that we're seeing, and honestly is one of our impetuses to create a consolidated customer portal to help facilitate this interaction. So I'm curious to put the ball in your guys' court and prompt you with how you've seen organizations best respond to this remote-based work and coordination with clients.
Well, I think it's really interesting. I mean, you brought up your portal. I mean, you're a classic example of kind of jumping into an area where there's a huge void that absolutely has to be solved. You know, where Zoho's done a great job across their integration with their applications and various other things. But as far as from allowing you to really communicate with your clients and have your clients come in and access and see their data across all these various things. I mean, one of the reasons we've done so much work with you back and forth on just, you know, I guess, I don't know, a dozen clients maybe up to now, John Mark, something like that. You know, you've got the self-service portal where people can kind of pull together the various Zoho apps, and then you can kind of go much deeper level with that and build out a total custom portal. But, you know, oftentimes you have this information that sits over in finance, or it's sitting in the CRM, or maybe it's sitting in projects, or wherever it's sitting, and you're constantly trying to pull that in and get it to your customer. And you know, you've done the magical, which is basically make that information available to that customer. And so it's extremely valuable to all of our clients, because they are looking for new ways to communicate. They're looking to be more efficient. You know, you do pull in other things such as video libraries and all the other things that can be done. So, you know, I mean, it's a really, really elegant way of being able to make sure that your customer information is up to date, that they get all of the information that they need. I mean, it's no secret, but all of our clients, when they sign up with us, we basically put them on, you know, the portal. And it's the Catalyst Connect portal. But what is it doing? Well, it's pulling from the CRM, it's pulling from finance, it's pulling from desk, it's pulling from subscriptions. And, you know, basically in there, people are able to manage their entire experience with us in a single place. And by pushing them in there for videos and the libraries, it becomes kind of a go-to place. Now, I'm not, for a lot of businesses, maybe that's not the case. You know, maybe they have to force people to kind of go into the portal. But I think because of the fact that you virtually are pulling in the entire customer experience across the world of Zoho and beyond, it becomes a very compelling place for clients to go because it really does this one-stop shop for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we honestly pursued the client portal out of our own need to be a little bit more organized and efficient with the way that we coordinate and communicate with our clients. Especially if you're a service-based organization and you have a lot of coordination that's going on. Historically, that was done with those in-person meetings, and you had a dedicated customer service rep or account manager that was keeping track of all of this. And a lot of the communication historically was done via email. But man, if your guys' inboxes are anything like mine, my emails have just gone through the roof, in the last few months. And it becomes so easy to lose track of those communications and those documents and the attachments. And I think we've all been there, searching for 5 minutes through your inbox for something. So the advent of a unified client portal to help organize those documents, those tickets, the coordinations, the sales orders, and invoice acceptances, the ability to manage your subscriptions by oneself really is helping to make the customer service experience far more efficient and organized, and really empowering the customer to drive a lot of those changes that would otherwise necessitate multiple back and forths to coordinate a meeting or lost emails, and not having everything centralized so that if there is a change in personnel with the company, that exactly where that client left off. And I think that before we launched this panel, we were kind of discussing, well, how do we get that level of adoption? I think there's always going to be pushback to new technologies and new ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to the value and the ease of making this information readily available and organized, so that it just makes sense to go to a portal as opposed to sending an email or trying to get someone on the phone. So Vanessa, I'd love to prompt you and to hear from you how your clients are perhaps embracing or are meeting this new digital coordination with some apprehension about how to handle this change management and get the adoption. Because at the end of the day, you can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't have people actually using them, they're useless.
Sure. Well, I personally, for myself within my business, I almost forced myself to have to get a client portal, because my email, like yours, is, I don't know, I think I have like 16,000 emails in my inbox right now. And I tell my clients all the time, I've got to get you guys into my customer portal because I don't want to lose your emails. And when you say something like that, they're like, okay, this person's really actually wants to get my emails, but they're going to be honest with me and say, hey, there's emails coming in from all over the place nowadays. It's not just your clients ever emailing you. It's the newsletter people. It's all the different stuff. And to have one nice place to go to it makes life easier. And the people that I've worked with so far, they see that value. And they really want to put the time and effort into getting it set up. What their challenge or struggle is how do they convince their people, without them pulling me into a call and be like, hey, how do I, can you demo my client portal to my client? How can they share out that value to get their customers to use it? And that's something I'm still trying to help them with, like maybe doing a little intro video, like on your client portal, you have that little spot for the video that you can put in, which is a little bit of step-by-step directions on where to go and what to do, add a little personalization to it, but not make them have too much hands-on to do.
Yeah,
because that can also become overwhelming.
Absolutely. And, I think that you brought up something interesting there, just in terms of the coordination with clients. And when it comes to fielding those requests for new updates or a ticket submission, historically, you had to almost get through the gatekeeper, right? And, I do my best to get through my emails throughout the day, but inevitably I get to it late at night and I go through and clear out the most important emails at the end of the day. And that could be valuable hours that you're missing in getting that request directly to the dev team. So I think that the implementation of a portal to handle new support requests or bugs, or do things like change subscription tiers directly by the customer, helps facilitate change and getting things in motion far more efficiently. Instead of having to go through an email that then gets routed to the appropriate rep, our portals trigger workflow rules in Zoho. So you can actually have the customer submit a request, create a record that triggers a workflow rule and fires off directly to the developer that was part of the project, or goes directly to the ops team to fulfill a new order. And I think that that's where we can really get customers excited about the use of these portals, because it's a channel for them to get directly to the ops team, the accounting team, without having to do this interim step through a CSR or account manager.
Yeah, I think that we see, like, in nearly all interactions in life, like design can be used to model this, to really understand, and it comes down to like the user experience, right? And when, like, there will be this initial hesitation to adopt something new always, right? And people are already overloaded with apps, logins, etc., right? And there are more tools and things to help manage that. But as you help people enter and start using these technologies, ideally, like, an optimal solution just displays its value just through the act of using it, right? As soon as you log in and you're able to see the value because all of your, files and systems and logs are all in one place, that can be easy, right? I'm a strong believer in transparency when working with clients, at least with my own clients, and I translate that down the line, right? But for clients to be able to just log in and see, not only did we work 3 hours, but I worked from 8 a.m. to 8:43, and be able to see that, like, hey, this is literally when this was done. That is transparency. And that's not with me going in and telling them that is just automated, right? Just one plug and play solution that is connected through, that we're using for our internal operations. But that same level of transparency is reflected out to the client as well, right? And we can do that not just in timekeeping, but in every aspect. Like, hey, this is the total amount on by project or even sub project that you have accrued in cost, right? And even this, and taking that to projections, and that's all in one place. Well, you're going to want to go into the portal and explore and understand, be like a good portal or a good tech solution is going to make you curious, and you're going to interact with it. You're going to want to learn more and see what else, what is this new tab, like, what does this do? And as you get deeper into it, that's like the core for getting customers adopted, right? Making an experience that really, one, targets their needs, right, but also is enjoyable, right? It feels good to use.
Absolutely, and talk about building trust and rapport. In giving that level of transparency to one's customers, you're really showing that you're an extension of their team, and there isn't this notion of a third-party vendor that you're having to micromanage. And being able to give that level of transparency and detail, and empowering them to go and explore and know exactly what's being done, really, I think, builds a lot of trust at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's unheard of in most industries. Like,
yeah. Well, what I'd love to do is perhaps pull up an example of the portal, and we can get a better sense of how we can, to Vinu's point, build engaging portals that are exciting for clients to explore. And I think that that's one of the things that we've really taken to heart in designing our unified portal for Zoho, is really equipping the user to dial in the portal to really fit with their brand, and have the content that's really going to be engaging for that user. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll pull up an example of what that looks like. Can you guys see my screen? Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. So this is a fairly typical use case, a professional service organization. This is obviously our dummy CPA site that we use to test new functions and features of the portal. And we have a quick login button over here where we can go in and sign in as our user.
Nick Fury.
Of course, big Avengers fan here. So as we know, client portals obviously need to be very secure, and all of our user provisioning is done against a contact record in the CRM, and we use end-to-end encryption whenever we are sending or receiving data to the portal from Zoho, so we can keep everything secure. And building that level of trust and transparency and security really, I think, opens up a lot of doors for more intimate and engaging conversations with one's clients. And what we've seen is that we want to create a well-branded portal that ties in with that customer's existing site, where there isn't this notion that customer is being taken to this off-site portal or third-party out-of-the-box system where they're really in this little shoebox. So what you'll notice is that this particular portal is very well designed to be integrated with that site. It's a seamless experience. You aren't changing domains, and we can really start to highlight some engaging content for the user to start poking around. So when it comes to this home dashboard, we have a lot of different options here to do things like embed Zoho Analytics dashboards. And I think that this is one of the more engaging aspects of this portal. We've seen a lot of very interesting use cases with clients creating a custom dashboard in Zoho Analytics, publishing that dashboard as a URL on the account record in the CRM, and then being able to dynamically display it here in the dashboard. So
yeah, I want to say, I can tell you, not to interrupt here, John Mark, but that's one of the big features, because in analytics, you can pull in from all these disparate sources. So when a person logs in, you're giving them just this central snapshot that they could really never get anywhere else. And it is super powerful. And there's a great example of it here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about the extensibility of the portal, being able to bring in analytics dashboards like this really allows you to create a comprehensive portal, not only within the Zoho apps, but with third-party data as well. We all know that analytics has done a fantastic job of being a good BI tool as a standalone product. And we have a number of clients bringing in ERP data or custom project management data from third-party systems into analytics, having us create some really nice engaging dashboards, and then giving that back to the client to interact with. So in taking a broader look at this portal, we can see here that we really have quite a few options to dive into a lot of detail across the entire Zoho product suite. At the end of the day, there are 9 core apps that we've integrated out of the box to the portal. And these really cover your main ones like CRM. Obviously, everything's going to tie back to that customer record, where we can have a company go in and actually manage a parent-child relationship. I think that that's another thing that we're seeing these days, is that oftentimes organizations will have multiple relationships with the same person in different capacities. And a good example of that is a professional service firm, like an accounting firm. They may do the personal taxes for someone while also having a business relationship with that entity. And that entity may have sub-locations. And we've really taken that to heart in designing this portal so that we can just have that single sign-on for a customer to interact with that organization on behalf of multiple entities. So, one of the big pain points.
That's one of like Zoho's most, I want to say, like, naive thoughts, is that a single contact is going to be associated to a single account.
I agree.
Have a single relationship type, and architecting their entire integrations to their other, like, there's book integration,
books 100%.
Like,
I've been begging them for years to build out that multiple, parent-child relationship with customers, not chart of accounts, but customers. And that's what I like about this. It makes it easier to do things like that.
Exactly. And, I think that at the end of the day, Zoho is such a flexible and powerful environment that you have to get creative. And I think we found some nice ways to address that very issue. Our portal handles that multiple relationship very well. And, here I am logged in as Nick Fury on behalf of his household. So this is a personal relationship that Nick Fury may have with Catalyst CPAs. But Nick Fury happens to be a part of Stark Industries, and he may be a company representative for Stark Industries. And we can then just switch over to the Stark Industries profile. And now all of the data in the portal is tied back to the Stark Industries account, not Nick Fury's account, even though we just logged in here.
Book stuff? Sorry,
Absolutely.
not to interrupt. Okay.
Yeah. So we can drill down into the parent account here for Stark Industries and see all of the financial data just under Stark Industries, or drill down into the subsidiary, maybe the Stark Space Center, which is the child account of Stark Industries. And where this gets rather interesting is we may have Nick Fury, who's an exec who needs to be able to see everything at the parent level down, of course, see his own household data, but we may have a junior rep at the Stark Space Center who just needs to be able to submit support tickets just for the Stark Space Center, but obviously not see Nick Fury's tax data. So we have the ability to do just that, where we can invite different members who belong to different accounts and give them limited access to just the data that's relevant to their account.
Yeah, and I think that roles, like there's both roles on the like contact side or like the end user side, right? How am I related to these different entities, right? What am I able to, data am I able to see? What am I able to interact with? What tickets can I submit, et cetera? And then even on like the internal Zoho and user side, that is also pretty deficient. Like, in all of our organizations, we'll have people who are working, maybe someone needs to like, advise on a project, but might have different permissions than if they're being the developer on the project, right? You have consultants in different capacities. And to be able to give different visibilities for, and you can even have your own internal portal that's segmented out that gives those same flexible permissions, right?
Absolutely. And we've seen some very interesting use cases where we've worked with manufacturers who have deployed the portal for not only their customers, but their distributors or manufacturers reps as well. And that's a perfect use case where you now have different stakeholder groups that need to have a different interface for that portal, because a distributor is going to obviously have a lot more features and functionality. Their dashboard is going to look different than an end user. So we can actually deploy multiple instances of the portal with entirely unique user interfaces and permissions for each stakeholder group. So we can really now cater to the individual and bring them the information that is most relevant to how they interact with the company.
Yeah, and one of the things that's, I don't know if you want to touch on it or not here, but the way you handle subscriptions, Zoho subscriptions is a very powerful application, but it really doesn't allow you to prorate or make those kind of adjustments. Those can only be done through API, and your portal handles that beautifully. So it's just kind of one of those things where, I think we've had several clients. The reason, there's lots of different entry points for this, right? As to why you might want this portal. Once you kind of get in, then there's more and more things that you'll want to use it for. But I do find the overall management of subscriptions is just super powerful.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking to increasingly bring more flexibility to the use of Zoho. As you mentioned, the API provides a lot of that flexibility to interact with Zoho data in a much more powerful way. And we're bringing those tools to use here through the portal. So certainly users can do everything from subscribing to plans, changing plans, canceling plans. And when it comes to the billing side in Zoho Books, having the ability to fund retainer invoices, view invoices, and pay for them through the portal. So this is connected directly to Zoho's payment gateway. So all of your payment records and get reconciled against that invoice as you would take a payment directly in Zoho. So we have a lot of flexibility here to equip that end user with the ability to handle a lot of things that would historically take a phone call to accomplish, or multiple emails back and forth.
One of the things that I've experienced outside of just the Zoho aspect is some of the features that you've included, is the ability to seamlessly, without anyone even knowing, that you're actually also integrating with things outside of Zoho. Like, say I'm using a third-party booking application that's a WordPress plugin, and I just want to iframe it in this nice, clean looking dashboard. I can do that, and no one even knew that I did it. They don't know the back end of what's happening. They just know all of their information, and everything that they need to do is in one straight, simple place. And the dynamic link in the accounts module is like my favorite part, because you have, there's a lot of tools out there where you can get a unique URL, pop it in there, and now you don't have to manually go and add it to your menu and do all of those things. And it makes our process a lot easier to make their experience more seamless.
Absolutely. I think that we starting to see an amalgamation of the web and a company's web assets with their back-end CRM and accounting functions. And we've really taken that to heart in designing the portal to create a seamless experience by embedding the customer portal directly in a client's website. So this is a very basic website here. You can see that we've stripped off any logins to other tabs, but we've seen use cases where clients have iframed in existing web pages or third-party web assets directly in the portal. We have the ability to, as you alluded to, have dynamic links that are on the account record in the CRM be mapped to a main menu navigation tab here. This gets very interesting if you have a more enterprise-ready document management system like Box or SharePoint, and you want to create a share file link where the customer can access that directly. Well, you can now save that custom file upload link directly to the account record in the CRM, and then just make it available as a main navigation item here for the customer to upload documents directly to that third-party platform. So we're seeing a lot of interoperability between third-party systems, the website and the portal and Zoho to really bring it together into a cohesive one-stop shop for that customer.
And it's expansive because you can, just keeping it in Zoho, right, just embed a Zoho Creator solution, right? And if you're able to embed that, you can embed that securely, right? You only need to embed effectively the IDs that are related, and you can load information from wherever you want. Optimally within Zoho, right? But you can make API calls wherever, you can serve that, you can manipulate that data. And so it's very flexible to be able to plug in something. And so a lot of these more custom solutions, even within Zoho, say you need to like update a CRM record and a books, the related books record at the same time, you can make these custom solutions when architected correctly in just using like basic creator forms or pages or something that's embedded.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because the plugin at the end of the day is extremely flexible. Yeah, at a high level here, we have built-in integrations with CRM. This supports all standard and custom modules, subforms, as well as triggering any kind of workflow rules. So I know that Vinny, you've done some very interesting things with clients where we've submitted requests through the portal, and that has done things like automatically provision new folder structures in WorkDrive. And we have use cases where clients may initiate a request, and we can actually go ahead and automatically create that WorkDrive folder for the client, pre-populate their root folder with subfolders like this to keep documents better organized and standardized, and then be able to really build in anything from custom modules and creator apps to further extend the portal's functionality. So
I implement that a lot with the folders and the create, basically client onboarding without having to have 10 different forms for somebody to fill out to get all of the details, putting it all in one nice spot, and then having automations behind the scenes building everything out and tying in through this portal's made onboarding 10 times easier.
Absolutely. And I think that in seeing all of these features, being able to integrate all of these different apps, it's very exciting, but can also be a little daunting. I mean, I know that a lot of people are thinking, well, this is all well and good, but what does it take to actually set up a portal like this? That's something that we are really taking to heart in making this easily deployable. And some big improvements are coming here in the next couple of weeks, and some have already been pushed live to facilitate a much easier setup of this portal. Today, we can actually get a full portal stood up, connected, and customized within 5 hours. And we can do that by automatically mapping a lot of fields. So as you can see, we can go through and connect our various apps over here. The newest one is we actually have a full e-commerce capability now through Zoho Inventory. So we've had some very innovative solutions out there where we've created an e-commerce website for an artist who's integrated with a service called IP Assets to do certificates of authenticity on the blockchain. So we're taking some really high-tech solutions here, creating an e-commerce website, integrating it with blockchain technologies to do certificates of authenticity, and tying it all back to Zoho. So some really cutting edge work here, but doing it very efficiently, where any of these apps, once you've connected them, we automatically pull in all of the modules and fields. So you can see here, these are all the modules that are available in Zoho CRM. We can easily toggle on or off the different modules. Once you toggle on a module, you'll be able to easily refine what the permissions are on that module for a particular user. And all of the fields are going to be automatically mapped down here. So this is really going to improve the speed of deploying the portal, where you're not going to have to map any of the fields. You'll simply come in here, and if you don't want a user to be able to edit a field, you can simply just deselect the edit button. If you want to remove it from view entirely, you can simply exit out, and it'll drop off the front end. So the deployment of all of the mapping is done for you. The other side, of course, is the design side, and we've all been there agonizing over color schemes and how to best organize the front-end interfaces. And we've really made that quite easy. Down here in the design settings, we've actually launched a few different theming options. So 3 are live today, and we'll have the ability to add a couple more here in our next version release. And once you've selected a theme, you'll be able to further refine the color scheme in addition to the layout. And this is really going to help you get a slick portal that's well branded on your domain with your color scheme, with a nice dashboard, really with a click of a button. And for those clients that really want to take it that step further to make it their own, we've added the ability for clients to add their own custom CSS and JavaScript, so you can further integrate it into your site and really tie it in with your brand so that it looks like a full custom portal.
Very cool. And these are the kinds of things that, like, I just want to emphasize, like, Zoho is not doing, right? And especially there's a difference when you're having a portal solution, like any of the existing portal solutions from Zoho. They are not going to look like something that you can just put on your website. It won't have the fonts that you're going to use. It's not going to have the colors, like very, very limited capacity to brand your end user ones. And so it's different when you're working with clients, right? But when you're using end users or customers, it really needs to match the brand of like what you have on your website. It's the biggest deficiency. So this is one of the main reasons why businesses may want to use this solution, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to discount Zoho's out-of-the-box portals, because they certainly have their place, especially for those organizations that may just use a single app or have a very straightforward use case. But when you're really talking about organizations taking a comprehensive approach to client management that's more remote-based, you really want to have a cohesive, unified portal. We've all have too many logins as it is. Being able to have one place to go and manage everything and as a bonus, being able to completely tie that into your existing website branding and completely architect the user flow and user experience is really just going to make that portal that much more engaging. And yeah, at the end of the day, that's what's going to drive customer loyalty, better communication, and better sales, because it's just going to be that much easier and pleasurable to do business with that entity.
And what makes this really good is the customization, like Vinu said. I mean, if you look at this entire thing and you go through it, everybody wants customization. They want, I mean, right down to what fields are you going to put on the page? What fields are editable? What fields aren't editable? What is the color scheme? What applications am I pulling in? Those are the kind of things that you just can't get in any portal normally. I mean, they're very standard and out of the box, and they're pretty generic, and they come with a set of fields and what you can pull in. And it's that customization that gives this that makes this application truly a winner. Plus the fact you're integrating with all the key Zoho applications, so it's pretty powerful.
I agree with Brett. Having a background in design, branding yourself across everything that you do is very important for people to recognize, who you are, and to be able to customize all of that. I mean, when you get to the Zoho stuff, if you're using one app, it makes sense to use Zoho's portal sometimes, but add on one more, you're now 2 logins in, nothing looks the same. It just doesn't make sense logically. It makes more sense to make something that's your own.
Exactly. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I know that we're at the top of the hour here. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. Look forward to exploring more use cases with you. Would love to dive in deeper into e-commerce functionality, more transaction-based use cases. But a pleasure having you on, and look forward to our next chat. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, John Smart.
Well, thanks, folks. It was a pleasure having everyone on today's webinar. As you saw, some very insightful comments there by some Zoho partners on how 2020 shaped up for everyone, the use of technology, and the importance of a customer portal in remote coordination. We have some really exciting updates coming to the plugin in the next couple of weeks. We are completely revamping the back-end user interface. We are implementing a similar canvas builder that Zoho has deployed in the CRM for the plugin itself. So we'll be able to develop some really slick, detailed pages within the portal, and really power a very dynamic portal experience that's more like a website that's powered by Zoho data. So I will send out a sneak peek video reviewing those changes along with this webinar. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. If you folks have any questions or would like to dive into a more detailed one-on-one call, please feel free to reach out to us at hello@catalystconnect.com. We'd be happy to facilitate a one-on-one call to discuss different use cases and how this portal can be used for not only your own organization, but your clients as well. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Cheers.